Welcome to my woodland beanie tutorial. Today I'm going to share with you the step-by-step process on how I made my woodland beanie. Not only is this beanie soft and comfy and stylish, but it might be the most budget-friendly beanie I've ever made, especially if you're able to get your yarn from the Dollar Tree. If the Dollar Tree is a little far for you, feel free to use their online ordering option where you can actually buy yarn from the dollartree.com. If the Dollar Tree is not an option for you, then feel free to substitute this yarn out. It just needs to be a size 4 weight worsted, medium, Aran, 10, 12 ply, or 9 to 12 WPI sized yarn. This project stems from my yarn comparison video that I just did, where I bought a $300 skein of yarn and then compared that yarn with other yarns of varying price points to see if the price of yarn does have a direct correlation with the quality of the yarn. The Dollar Tree yarn that I used in that yarn comparison video is actually the same yarn that I used in this woodland beanie, Premier Just Yarn Tweed in the color Greige Tweed. The tutorial I'm making today, I am making an adult medium size beanie. If you would like to make this beanie in any other size, definitely refer to the pattern. You can find the pattern underneath this video in the resources section. Or if you'd like a little more interactive pattern, I do have this pattern on my Ribbler platform as well. Crochet by the numbers. This beanie took me approximately 1 hour and 30 minutes to make, including the pom-pom at the top. The amount of yarn that I used was approximately 136 yards of yarn, or 125 meters. I ended up using just shy of 2 skeins. So because I bought this yarn at the Dollar Tree, that means this beanie cost me less than $3 to make. For more information about what crochet hook that I used and the notions that I used to make this beanie, look in the description section below where I'll have everything listed out. Also check out the pattern underneath materials. Let's get started. We're going to start with the brim. So I'm going to begin by chaining 7. Row 1, we're going to single crochet in the second chain from our crochet hook and then make 1 single crochet stitch in each chain all the way across. You should end row 1 with a total of 6 single crochet stitches. Row 2 through the end of row 62, all you're doing is chaining 1, turning your work, and making 1 single crochet stitch in the back loop only of each stitch space all the way across. So we should end each row with a total of 6 stitches, and this is going to be the brim that's going to have that nice ribbed look and feel. I really appreciate that ribbed look because it helps with making it stretchy and expand and fit very comfy, cozy around your head. And 6, finishing off row 62. Great. I just finished my entire brim. What you should be seeing here is a thin line that's ribbed. It has some major texture going on here. Take the first row and the last row that you just made, and I like to put the first row behind the last row I just made. Just seems to work better for me. I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, insert my crochet hook into that first loop or the first stitch on one side, insert my crochet hook into the first stitch on the other side, yarn over and pull through all the way for a slip stitch. What we're going to do is slip stitch these 2 sides together to form the ring or band of our brim. Finding the next stitch, entering crochet hook, stitch on the other side, yarn over, pull all the way through for a slip stitch. Great, just finished. Before we move forward, I want to turn this inside out. So what I have here is I just slip stitched these 2 sides together and it makes quite a defined point right there. So I'm going to flip it inside out. So now that super defined point is facing inward and it camouflages so much better. We are now working the main body of the beanie. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start row 1 or round 1 because we're now working around. We're going to start by chaining 2. 1, 2. That chain 2 does not count as a stitch. Begin by making 1 double crochet stitch in the side of that first row. Yarn over, find the peak here, insert crochet hook into the side of that row, yarn over, pull through, then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 for that double crochet stitch. Now having this ribbed brim helps us out a lot. Every peak that we see will have 2 stitches on the side of it. So here I have this peak right here. I just worked my first stitch on one side of the peak, and now I will work my next double crochet stitch on the other side of the peak. Finding the next peak here, double crochet on one side of it, double crochet on the other side of it. So that's one way to work the side of each row for row 1 or for round 1. Another way is just to know how many rows you made in the brim. So I had 62 rows. So I need to make sure that I have a total of 62 double crochet stitches for round 1 of this main body of the beanie. Whatever works best for you, continue working around until you have made every stitch, whatever size beanie you're making, all the way around. I'll meet you at the very end where I'll show you how we tie off and do row 2 or round 2 a little different. 62. Great. Slip stitch into the top of the very first double crochet stitch that you made to close round 1 of the main body of our beanie. Now remember that chain 2 we made does not count as a stitch, so we're not slip stitching into the second chain. We're skipping that whole chain 2, finding the first double crochet we made and slip stitching into the top of that first double crochet stitch. Row 2, chain 2. 1, 2. Again, chain 2 does not count as a stitch. Make a V-stitch inside that same first stitch space that we just slip stitched into. How to make a V-stitch? We're just making 2 double crochet stitches in that same stitch space. Then we will skip the next stitch and make 2 double crochet stitches in the following stitch. That is going to be our repeat pattern for round 2 of the main body of our beanie. Just skip stitch space, 2 double crochets in the next. Reaching the end of round 2, finishing off here with a V-stitch, skipping the last stitch. To close off round 2, we're actually going to slip stitch into the first double crochet stitch made of that V, and that closes round 2. Okay, so for round 3 through the end of round 8, we're repeating this pattern. We're going to start by chaining 2, 1, 2, and then making a V-stitch inside the V-stitch from below. So finding those 2 V's, inserting our crochet hook between those 2 V's to make our next V-stitch. And then find the next V, make your next V-stitch or 2 double crochets between those 2 double crochet stitches. So it'll look like the V inside of a V trailing up like a zipper a bit. So look like that. That's the repeat pattern for round 3 through the end of round 8. You're just going to end each row or each round by slip stitching into the first double crochet stitch to close the round and then chain 2 to begin. Go ahead and continue on, and I'll meet you at the end of round 8 to show you what we do differently for round 9. Last V-stitch for round 8. 1, 2, slip stitch into the top of that first double crochet stitch to close round 8. Great, it's round 9 that we're going to start closing in the top of the beanie. Starting with chaining 2, 1, 2. We will begin by making 1 double crochet stitch between the V-stitch of the first V, so 1 double crochet, and making 1 double crochet stitch between the next V. This is kind of making a reverse V to start decreasing. Then work 6 V-stitches in the next 6 V-stitch spaces, and then do the repeat pattern where we will make 1 double crochet stitch in the next V, so just 1 double crochet, and 1 double crochet stitch in the next V. And repeat, making 1 V-stitch in the next 6 V-stitches. Slip stitch into the top of that first double crochet stitch to close round 9. Round 10, chain 2, 1, 2. Make a V-stitch between these 2 double crochet stitches. V-stitch. And then make 1 V-stitch between the V-stitches for the next 4 stitch spaces. And the 4th V. At this point, we should have 5 V-stitches created for round 10. Then we're going to go ahead and make the 1 double crochet stitch between the V-stitches in the next 2 V-stitch spaces. 1, 2. And then continue making 5 V-stitches. 1, the first one between the 2 double crochets, and then the next 4 V-stitches will be inside the V-stitches. Right, and then double crochet 1, double crochet 2, V-stitch between the 2 double crochets, 4 more V-stitches. Great, slip stitch into the top of that first double crochet stitch to close round 10. We're now on to round 11. Chain 2, 1, 2, make a V-stitch in the first 3 V-stitches, and then make 1 double crochet in the next 2 V-stitches. So double crochet 1, next V-stitch, double crochet 2. Great, just like that. And then work that repeat pattern of 3 V-stitches and then individual double crochet stitches in the next 2 V-stitches. V-stitch 1, V-stitch between these 2 double crochet stitches, V-stitch in the V-stitch, there's 3, double crochet 1, double crochet 2. At the very end of round 11, we're going to make 1 double crochet stitch between these 2 double crochet stitches. There we go. And slip stitch into the top of that first double crochet to close round 11. For round 12, we're going to start by chaining 2, 1, 2, making a V-stitch inside the first V-stitch, 1, 2, and then working our 1 double crochet stitch in the next 2 V-stitches, 1, 1, then make a V-stitch between the next 2 double crochets, just like that, V-stitch in the next stitch space, V, 1 double crochet in the next 2 V-stitches, V-stitch between those 2 double crochet stitches, V-stitch in the next V-stitch, and then 1 and 1, and repeat. Ending round 12 by making 1 double crochet stitch between that first double crochet and the chain. Slip stitch into the top of the first double crochet stitch to close round 12. Let's move on to round 13. Chain 2, 1, 2. V-stitch in the first V-stitch, V-stitch between the next 2 double crochet stitches, and then make 1 double crochet stitch in the next 2 V's. Double crochet 1, double crochet 2. Great. V-stitch between the next 2 double crochet stitches, 1, 2, V-stitch in the next V, and then 1 double crochet stitch in the next V, and 1 double crochet stitch between the 2 double crochet stitches for that decrease. V-stitch in the next V-stitch, V-stitch in the following V-stitch, 1 double crochet between the 2 double crochet stitches, 1 double crochet in the next V, great, V-stitch on top of V, and V-stitch between those 2 double crochet stitches. Ending round 13 by making 1 double crochet stitch between that last double crochet and that chain. Slip stitch into the top of the first double crochet stitch to close round 13. That's what we're looking at. It's definitely closing up here, which is awesome. For round 14, we're going to start by chaining 2. 1, 2. Make your first V-stitch inside the V-stitch. All right, we're going to continue by making 1 double crochet stitch in the next V-stitch and 1 double crochet stitch between the next 2 double crochet stitches. Great. And then V-stitch in V-stitch, and then double crochet between V-stitch and double crochet between the 2 double crochet stitches. The last double crochet stitch we will make for round 14 will be between that last double crochet stitch and the chain, and then slip stitch into that first double crochet stitch to close round 14. Round 15 is going to be our last round. We're going to start by chaining 2, V-stitch in V-stitch, and then make 1 double crochet between the 2 double crochet stitches, and then V-stitch on V-stitch, and then 1 double crochet between the 2 double crochets. V-stitch on V-stitch, 1 double crochet between the 2 double crochet, V-stitch, finish off round 15 by making 1 double crochet stitch between these 2 double crochet stitches right here. Great, slip stitch to close off round 15. Now what we are going to do is we're going to cut a long enough tail for us to weave in that tail to close that whole gap at the top of our beanie. Yarn over, pull through. Great, now we're going to grab our yarn needle, or you could really just use your crochet hook too. We're just going to weave in and out. In fact, I'm going to keep my crochet hook. Insert crochet hook into the next stitch space, grab that tail, pull one way, come from the other direction, grab that tail, pull the other way. Weave your tail in and out of stitches all the way around the opening here at the top of the beanie. When you've made it all the way around, great, pull that tail to close up the top of your beanie for a great seal. Here's the hole. I'm going to come on the diagonal side or the opposite side of where that yarn is. Going to yarn over, pull through, keep a loop on my crochet hook, yarn over, pull that tail all the way through for a slip knot to seal. And then what I will do is I'll take my crochet hook on the inside of the beanie out, yarn over and pull that tail on the inside of the beanie. And when I'm all finished with my beanie and ready to clean up all of those ends, I will just turn my beanie inside out, grab my yarn needle tapestry needle and weave that tail in for a much more secure hold at the top of the beanie. Now technically your beanie could be done if you chose to. If you didn't want to add anything else to it, just take a second to weave in your ends and voila, you are done. However, for me personally, I was like, gosh, I have this much yarn left over. I want to do something with it. So I went ahead and I made a pom-pom. How I made my pom-pom. I used the 3-inch diameter pom-pom maker. Insert the yarn from the inside and have it catch right there so it's easy to hold on to. And then just start wrapping your yarn around both of those, both of these little holders. Once your pom-pom is all made and you've gone through and you've trimmed it up just a little bit. Then all I would do to attach the pom-pom, find the center of the beanie here. This is also great because the center or the top of the beanie has a lot of holes from all those decreases, and this helps to just provide a little more coverage and cover some of those holes up a little bit in case you're worried about any or losing too much heat. Tie a knot here at the top. And that's it. I encourage you to share your finished creations on social media such as Instagram, Pinterest, or wherever you do social media. If you could tag me, I would love it so I could see it myself. Either tag at Crochet with Tiffany or hashtag Crochet with Tiffany so I can see your creation. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you learned something new, and I'll see you at the next one.